All right, buongiorno. It's my best Italian accent. Fantastic. I was actually supposed to do this speech by myself, but then my lawyer, who is also Italian, was like, Sheraz, if you're approaching the Italian cloud, better be well protected. So he's here to present with me. Today, we actually do have a presentation, so I don't know if you have that as well. Perfect, thank you. We're going to go through a little bit the Crypto Valley ecosystem, actually, the Swiss one, which is actually not too far away from here. And we're just going to explain to you a little bit more about, perfect, thank you. A little bit about how the Swiss Crypto Valley has come to place and how it might be able to benefit you here in this room. And as well, if you have any questions, don't hesitate. Let's make it as interactive as possible. Maybe before I start, I'll give you a little context on why maybe you should listen to us. So I've been active in this space now for 6 years. I have two main hats. The first one being the managing partner of Storm Partners, which is a one-stop shop to the crypto and blockchain space. We help enterprise clients such as like Vodafone, Swiss banks, scale-ups such as like Swissborg, Aave, Atani, Downmaker, and the likes to really spark their ideas to life. We have 4 main departments: finance and fundraising, legal and compliance, which is the one that Nicola here leads, marketing and events, and digital transformation. My second cap is actually the co-executive director and the head of business development of the Crypto Valley Association, which is the largest nonprofit in this space. So we have just under 10,000 members, 250 of which are corporate members. So you have some of the largest companies in the world, but also within the crypto and blockchain space. It's been around now for the past, four odd years. And I'll be able to go into a little bit more detail with that shortly. So maybe before I do, Nicola, would you like to present yourself quickly?
Sure. As Sheraz said, I lead the legal and compliance department at Storm Partners. We assist many different kind of business in blockchain, exchanges, launchpads, miners, as well as token issuers, both for like utility tokens or also use security tokens. And then I am a legal research officer at the Blockchain and Climate Institute. This is something I do pro bono. The Blockchain and Climate Institute is a research institute to research for, let's say, potential applicability of blockchain technology to fight climate change. So sustainability like tokenization of carbon credits or peer-to-peer energy transaction, which is also quite an interesting area. Now we have participated at COP26 in Glasgow. Actually, the Blockchain and Climate Institute itself was founded in 2017 at the COP23.
Fantastic, thank you. So just for some context, and we'll go over a little bit of the history of the Crypto Valley as well, but this is, in a nutshell, what the Crypto Valley represents all over Switzerland. What might be important for you is kind of what's happening in Ticino, and this is growing exponentially. So the Crypto Valley is set to be in Zug here. So this small, it's like 2 kilometers squared or a few kilometers squared. It's really, really small. And yet now, these figures are a little bit outdated, but there's around 600 crypto and blockchain companies there. So definitely recommend you go and check that out, and don't hesitate to reach out if you do. But now it's expanding all over, and we see expansions really happening in the southern side. So in the Geneva-Vaud region, where actually we're based, but also in Ticino. So here's a little bit of the history of the Crypto Valley, and when I talk about Crypto Valley, I mean technically Switzerland, right? And so it's way back in 2013. 2013, if we think about it, that's 8 years ago. 8 years ago, Switzerland was starting to work with digital assets, mainly Bitcoin at the time. And it really started with the trio that was Bitcoin Swiss, Monetas, and Xapo. Some of you that you might know, Xapo, which was bought by Coinbase, Monetas that actually didn't make it, but Bitcoin Swiss now that you might know, which is a really big, really big company. And it was actually thanks to these three that they were able to really push the regulatory landscape of Switzerland. Then it was actually in 2015 that you might know this young guy called Vitalik Buterin that founded Ethereum in Zug. So it was really kind of this entrepreneur startup kind of culture. They rented out a big house and they were there all together, and they actually created what is now one of the, or if the largest protocol. Then crazy enough, even before the 2017 hype where potentially a lot of you in this room found out about digital assets, 2016, the city of Zug made Bitcoin as a means of payment, which means today you can pay your taxes in Zug in crypto or in Bitcoin. I'm not too sure about some other digital assets. And then, as you know, 2017, there was a big boom in the crypto valley. That's why a lot of these companies came here, because there was a certain sense of legal and regulatory certainty, which Nicola will actually be able to provide you much more context about, but that's really what grew the valley out. 2018, FINMA, which is the financial regulator of Switzerland, brought out for the first time, actually worldwide, a classification of tokens, dictating the difference between a payment, a utility, and an asset token, which again, Nicola will tell you a lot more about. Then 2019, we have SEBA and Signum, the two first crypto banks, actual banks that work with digital assets, that you can actually deposit digital assets directly into your bank account, were approved. And then in 2021, FINMA approves the security rights for security token trading, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. So the rise of the crypto valley. So why did it really grow into being what it was? I mean, there's been a lot of foreign investments in Switzerland, very progressive measures and strong business connections actually all over, being within Zurich, Geneva, etc. So why should you choose Switzerland? I know Italy is a very, very nice place, but Switzerland has a lot actually to offer. So not only from having the top research institutes and universities, which I'll show you on the next slide, but it's also ranked among the best in many, many different areas. You really do have first-hand access to experts. If you think about it, if in 2013 people were already starting to talk and work around digital assets, there were a lot of people that now are experts. So you find really the largest conglomeration of digital asset experts, I think, per capita in Switzerland. So this is a little bit of a map for you around all of these universities. So this is not just showing all the universities in Switzerland. This is actually all the universities that are actively either researching, using, have projects, or even educating on crypto and blockchain. I know Switzerland's a very small country, but you can imagine this is like, there's quite a few of them here. And so that's why we get some of the best talent actually coming out of Switzerland. It's not cheap, but it's good talent. So why has it been a very attractive place for foreign investment? So there are a lot of multinationals that you might know, Nestle and many others that are based in Switzerland. And so all these multinationals, big pharma, even world organizations such as like the WHO, the WEF, etc., are here. And so there's a lot of investment that's happening. There's a lot of money in Switzerland that is actually ready to be deployed. And this one, Nico will talk about as well, but the transparent legal system, right? Just knowing what you need to do and what you shouldn't be doing is actually something that I think a lot of jurisdictions lack. The stability of the economy, right? Switzerland has been neutral for many, many years now, and a lot of people come to Switzerland to deposit their investments. I was just speaking with someone actually outside for a fun fact, and don't quote me on this, but from my understanding, there is 65% of the mined gold in the world that are in between Zug and Zurich, which is like a few kilometers wide. They're all in underground bunkers in Switzerland, which is, I was outstanding. It's incredible. There's also the tax side, the tax incentives. So unlike maybe Dubai and some other jurisdictions, it's not at zero, but you know that when you're somewhere in a certain place, you can contribute, and here I think it's a very rational contribution to society. And then all the funding opportunities that we were discussing, a lot of VCs, a lot of money is coming out of the space. Three more fun facts for you. Blockchain jobs created in Switzerland, over 6,000. It's a small country, but this is actually quite a lot. Maybe for some context here, the people that actually come to Switzerland or actually even like end up staying there are mainly kind of the C-suite. You have your general counsel and a few other people, but you have the core team. And then since this technology and a lot of the projects that you're working on work through decentralized distributed mechanisms, they have people all over, but a lot of the core team does stay there. So if you think 6,000 core team members of different projects, there is a lot of really strong thought leadership coming out of Switzerland. And then 14 unicorns. A unicorn is $1 billion company. So over 14 now that are based there in the crypto valley. And this is like, I think over the past maybe like four or 5 years, right? Making $1 billion in four or 5 years is quite outstanding. So there's really a lot of thought leadership and a lot of money in Switzerland ready to grab. So now I hand it over to Nicola to kind of go over a bit of more of the political system and the legal side.
Thank you, Sheraz. So, of course, my perspective, for why Switzerland is an attractive location for crypto projects, a bit different, is mainly legal. So, and it's actually true, because the regulatory uncertainty that characterizes crypto assets and crypto projects is huge worldwide. Switzerland has been able to provide certainty to projects and to startups, and this represented a main drive for the growth of this ecosystem in Switzerland. Let's start with the FINMA guidelines of 2018. Actually, FINMA has been the first regulatory authority to introduce these three categories of tokens: payment tokens, utility tokens, asset tokens. The point is, for issuing a utility token, you don't need to be regulated as a financial service provider. And even more, you can go to FINMA and start a dialogue with the authority, presenting your project, explaining what you want to do, and even more, obtaining a no-action letter, which is basically a letter from the authority that says, okay, we have reviewed your project, you are not triggering the applicability of any financial market law, so basically you don't need a license to operate, you can do it. Even more, then there is a proper law about DLT that came out in 2020, but that started its applicability since the 1st of August of 2021, and introduced the possibility of DLT security. So basically security tokens, so shares, bonds, but also other type of security tokens can now be issued and traded in Switzerland. So there is actually the possibility of setting up a security token exchange, a fully regulated security token exchange. And this actually is probably what happened like now. So SIX Digital Exchange, which is actually owned by the Swiss stock market, has been the first fully regulated security token exchange. And just a few days ago, on the 18th November 2021, they launched the first world digital bond. So a 100 million Swiss franc bond that is actually a token. This probably we see as the new wave for Switzerland, for being the first country in which actually security tokens can be negotiated, traded, of course not only for qualified investors, but also for retail investors. Although the space for DAOs, DeFi project, payment issuance, utility token service provider remains quite big. So now let's say, why presenting Switzerland to you, and why also Italians should be interested in Switzerland? Take into consideration this, only 10% of Swiss population is Italian speaking, but Italian is an official language in Switzerland. What does it mean? That when I have to read the law, when I have to talk to an authority, when I have to read an ordinance, I can do it in my own language. They are obliged to publish everything in Italian. They are obliged to respond to you in Italian. You can go there and talk to them in Italian. Even more, there is probably Canton Ticino, which, trust me, is Italy in Switzerland. You go in Canton Ticino, you don't notice any difference in how people speak or live, apart from the fact that it's more expensive. But it's really an attractive location for Italians that want to start their own project, because you really don't lose the beautiful part of our country and our culture, but you are based in a location which is have many characteristics for being more attractive to your project than to be in Italy. But not because Italy is a bad country, it's mainly because of the regulation, and it's mainly because Italy is inside the European Union. In the European Union, financial market law is harmonized, so single member states have actually not so much freedom in deciding what's the rule for example, security tokens or even utility tokens. You may know that the European Commission presented two different proposals to regulate one utility tokens and one security tokens, but the legislative process of the European Union takes quite long. They are expected to become actually real regulations only in 2023. In the meanwhile, I think you all know this time is really forever in our space, and in the meanwhile, many other projects will relocate somewhere else because of this uncertainty. Uncertainty is really something that our clients as well want to avoid. Our clients are mainly Europeans, are French, German, Spanish, and Italians. The one actually of the motivation we are here today is that they are not so many Italians. I see a lot of French, a lot of Spanish, and a lot of Germans coming to us and coming to Switzerland. Not many Italians, and I would like to overturn this, and I would like to tell my own people that Switzerland offers great possibility for crypto projects. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And we have some great Italian cooks as well, so you'll get good food in Switzerland as well. Fantastic, so we actually wanted to be quite short and sweet with regards to the presentation and not bore you too long. And we wanted to open up for some questions. And I mean, if you have any questions, please feel free. And if not, I mean, we can also continue on some other things. But please, I think there's one question to the mister over there.
Hi, can I, posso parlare in italiano? Te la posso fare in italiano la domanda, dato che è in Svizzera. Allora, mi chiedo, hai nominato le DAO e mi chiedevo in Svizzera come venivano viste da un punto di vista legale e regolamentate appunto le DAO, se venivano, non so, come una società a responsabilità limitata, cose del genere, come...
Principalmente non come società commerciali, ma come entità no profit, quindi fondazioni o associazioni. Queste sono le due diciamo, prospettive principali. C'è anche la possibilità delle società cooperative, che è qualcosa molto nuovo. Finora nessuna DAO è stata costituita come società cooperativa, però è una possibilità all'interno della quale di cui si sta discutendo, mettiamola così. Io faccio parte anche del Regulatory Working Group della Crypto Valley, che è alla fine un gruppo di avvocati che diciamo, studia le possibili soluzioni e anche va poi a parlarne con la firma. E ancora vorrei sottolineare questo aspetto, il dialogo con l'autorità è fondamentale, perché prima di proporre una soluzione al cliente si va veramente a verificare con il regolatore come loro vedono questo tipo di soluzione. Però per rispondere alla tua domanda sono principalmente fondazioni e associazioni, direi soprattutto fondazioni.
Ok, grazie, mi informerò meglio comunque.
Great. Anyone else with any questions at all? Right, so I mean, we can maybe do something quite interesting. So actually this was something that Nicola and I wanted to do, but we actually didn't get time to prepare, is do a little bit of like a role play in terms of if we were Italian, or well, actually Nicola is Italian, but if we were Italian based, how would we bring our project to life in Switzerland? And so let's say, Nico, I have a project, right? I have a project. What am I doing? I am digitalizing some asset, right? I'm digitalizing the Colosseum that we're going to go see later today. I'm going to be digitalizing the Colosseum. How would I go about this from a legal perspective? Would it be a good place to start in Italy, in Switzerland, and then maybe I can talk about some of the marketing aspects or the financial aspects?
I actually took a really difficult use case because the tokenization of real estate asset, let's not speak about the fact that Colosseum is a demanio dello Stato, but let's take it as a normal real estate asset. Tokenization of real estate is actually quite complicated. It's possible to do it through SPV, so special purpose vehicle, so a company dedicated to owning the real estate asset, and then basically you can tokenize the ownership of the company, thanks to the law I was citing before. So you can do it tokenizing the shares of the company, so the shares will be security tokens, and then you can sell them, or tokenizing, so creating some bonds that are tokens. Actually, this is the best way because basically you can then sell the bonds for a real estate project. People will buy the bonds and will give financial resources to develop the real estate project, and then they can earn a yield. The yield, this interest that is paid, can be paid daily, monthly, weekly, annually, but the payment is handled by a smart contract, so it's all fully automatic. Now is let's say, a common use case that is coming through nowadays. The point is also the fact that, as I was mentioning before, there is a possibility for the secondary market of security tokens, which is kind of unique. So the point is, like, you create these real estate assets, and then you can sell them and trade them through the security token exchanges.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm kind of challenging Nico here, see if he's really a good lawyer or not. If anyone has any other questions, please, microphone. Thank you.
Hi. May I ask you how a real Italian company actually work in Italy if they set up a branch in Switzerland, how it works and how this is seen by the Italian system more than the Swiss system? Because we know that Switzerland is lovely, but...
Good question. So here we come into the also both Italian and legal and Swiss legal system. It is possible to do so. So to have an Italian company and then to fund a subsidiary in Switzerland and to, let's say, dedicate the purpose of that subsidiary to a specific activity like the token issuance. So the fact of creating this subsidiary to issue some tokens can be seen by the Agenzia delle Entrate and also by Italian authorities in many different ways. They could claim is just like a way to avoid to pay taxes in Italy, but the point is, if there is a real reason, a reasonable reason to go to Switzerland, because Switzerland has a better regulatory framework, and this purpose, this SPV that you create in Switzerland for issue the token, obtain, for example, a FINMA no action letter, you can then go to Italy and say, Italy does not provide me with the possibility of doing what I'm doing in Switzerland in my own country. So there is a reason for why I've decided to create this SPV in Switzerland, which is outside the scope of paying taxes here, there, pay less or more. So I decided to do that, and there is a legitimate business reason for doing so, and so also Italian authorities cannot see it in an illicit way.
Great, thank you. Maybe we still have a little bit of time for a few more questions, but maybe before I tackle that one, it's often something that we talk about and we joke actually quite a lot about, that Switzerland is an expensive country, and it is. But there is a certain value to Switzerland as well, and we work with a lot of projects in the space, some of which that I mentioned before. Actually, Sarah from Alien Worlds is one of our clients as well, and we often see that some of these projects, they decide to go kind of, not Alien Worlds actually, but some other projects that we see, maybe younger teams, that are like, okay, how do we do this kind of quick, fast, and make it happen quite simply? We want to pay really the cheapest amount possible, and they end up establishing themselves into jurisdictions that might not have the regulatory framework in place, or might not have the people that understand what they're doing they're in place, and they end up in the short term being able to kind of create what they want, but then over the long term, when they become a little bit more legitimate, they have a little bit more funding, they have major roadblocks in front of them. So one of the key things that I would just like to share with you is really, if you're thinking about your project on the long term, if you're trying to do a little bit of a pump and dump like we saw yesterday at the awards ceremony, then maybe it's not something you want to consider. But if you're really looking to establish yourselves on a long-term basis within the cryptocurrency and blockchain space, really think about where you're founding this company and where you're going to be growing it from. Because this is really going to dictate a lot, in my opinion, of the success of the company. Of course, you can decide over time to migrate your company, but then it involves a lot of actually additional costs, and it's a little bit more burdensome. I've been traveling a lot over the past couple of months, and we've seen some really large jurisdictions such as Dubai that are coming up, right? Dubai, now called the crypto oasis, for those of you that have been, is really kind of bringing this kind of very fast, and they're really trying to develop out of there. But when you're talking about developing things quite fast, it lacks a certain type of quality, right? A certain type of thinking behind the project. And so what we really see happening is that some of these jurisdictions, such as Dubai, even Malta to some extent, etc., people are really creating their projects. If they just have an idea, they have a little bit of funding, and they're creating them over there. And then they migrate them over to Switzerland, or as Nicola was mentioning, having a subsidiary. And that's why we see some of the larger foundations there. So one thing to take into consideration would be potentially, instead of doing kind of one step in one jurisdiction and then moving over somewhere else, to really think about where you're being. And I think, as Nicola mentioned, there is a mini Italy inside of Switzerland ready to take you on board as well. So yeah, I think that's kind of all we have time for, but maybe, okay.
One last thing I want to stress, because it's really different from our culture, is the approach that authorities have towards you in Switzerland. I was generally surprised when I find out that if you talk with the Swiss tax authority or if you talk with FINMA, the financial regulator, they are open and available to have a conversation with you and to try to find what is the, let's say, the best and most compliant solution for you too. This is something that I've never seen in Italy. If in Italy you go to talk with the Agenzia delle Entrate, is an enemy. You are fighting with them. This thing, I think you all know, this thing in Switzerland is completely different. The point of the authority is to provide a service to the people that live in Switzerland. And when I really understood that this was the case, it's actually mind-blowing, because for a company, you can go also to the tax authority and say, this is my business, how should I account my utility tokens? How should I pay taxes? For example, for utility tokens, it's actually a problem because utility tokens could be seen as a service, so you may need to pay VAT, or they could be seen as a liability on the balance sheet of the company, so actually a debit towards the holders of the token. So there is a real question here, and you can go there and you can, let's say, try to understand with them which is the most appropriate law and framework that should apply to your issuance of tokens. I think in Italy, if you go there, they just tell you have to pay the most expensive thing. And this fact that you can really have an approach in which you disclose also information that may hurt you to some extent to the authority, but they try to find the best solution with you is something that has a real value for any company.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you all for listening. And if you want to spark your idea to life, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you.